This is Franchise Talk. Welcome back, or welcome, or hello. This week on Franchise Talk, we're trying to figure out, is Zach Snyder insane? Or is he the most sane?
Wow. When you put it that way, when you flip it that way,
This is
it
Bernard
says a
Harris.
lot.
I am Aaron Covington, and we want to know. We want to know about Batman. Should Batman kill?
Mm.
That's
I think it's
that's
an
the
important question.
it's an important question. It is the topic of conversation. Uh, brought on by Zach Snyder, who directed, but I guess he never did a Batman movie.
Yeah. There's like half a Batman movie in there.
But he directed Batman
75%.
75%, Batman versus Superman,
I'd say 50 in Batman versus Superman and maybe another 25 in Justice League.
25 in Justice League. Well, that's only two times. That was the only two times.
No, no, he was in Flash. I didn't see Flash, but he was in Flash.
Michael Keaton.
Wait, no, no. I'm thinking of Ben Affleck, the actor. No, I think that's the only time Zack Snyder did Batman. Yeah.
The Batman in the Flash movie was Michael Keaton.
Affleck, I think, was in the beginning.
I think you're right. Before all the time travel. And then he did a Superman
Hmm.
movie, which this kind of brings up
Right.
Superman 2 in a lot of ways, because it's his kind of point of view on heroes.
Yeah.
Let me read a quote. Let me read what he said. Batman can't kill is canon. And I'm like, okay. The first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. What happens when they put Batman in a situation where he has to kill? That's what he's saying. And they go, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill. I had a better quote. I had it more full. Okay. People are always like, Batman can't kill. So Batman can't kill is canon. And I'm like, okay, well, the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. Snyder continued. And they go, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. I'm like, well, your that's just like you're protecting your God in a weird way, right? You're making your God irrelevant.
Yeah, the God, you're making your God irrelevant was a interesting pull quote.
an, an interesting pull quote or an interesting thing to have said?
Both.
Both.
Both. I,
Facts.
I mean, I think there's just so much there, but I would argue just broadly before we get into the topic, like this is one of the reasons that I enjoyed Man of Steel. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it.
Sure.
But this is I really have not loved or enjoyed too much of Zack Snyder's work, and one of the reasons why I don't necessarily think that he really worked in that DC universe is kind of maybe part of the topic that we're talking about, which he didn't really respect the franchise, right? He didn't really do the characters as the characters. And like also like if you want to make I'll bring up another big franchise right now on TV. If you want to make the boys, then that's great. You make the boys.
Make the
You know
boys.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's one of my big problems with like the evil Superman trope that's always everywhere, or like the gritty Batman as Punisher type version. It's like if you want to make the boys, you make the boys, but if you're making this franchise, you make this franchise.
Honor this friend. Well, we made the suggestion to ourselves in our private conversation in a text. Zack Snyder doing Irredeemable is what makes the most sense.
Yes,
That's a
yes,
comic book.
that's
I
absolutely
mean,
true.
I expect if somebody's listening to this, they probably know or have read Irredeemable comic book, the graphic novel.
Hmm.
And that's where, yeah, Superman goes bad, basically.
Hmm.
And that was he a Plutonian? Was that what he was?
Wow, yeah, I Plutonian sounds right. Yeah, for
I have to
sure.
look it up again. I should have looked it up
I
before.
haven't read that in like 15 years or whatever, but
Yeah.
Plutonian does sound right.
And he wasn't as good as Superman even originally. He kind of always had this like brooding, deep anger.
Yeah, he was kind of always putting up a front.
Yeah.
Like he was never actually good like Superman.
No, no. And he had like a more troubled childhood and things in his backstory. So that is that is really Zack Snyder Superman. So with Batman, well, first of all, I want to put Batman in a situation where he has to kill. I'm not sure that that's what you did on Batman versus Superman.
Yeah,
But
when you said that,
go ahead.
when you said that, I for the first time really thought like, but is there any situation in that movie where he has to kill? There's a lot of them that he chooses to kill somebody. But I would argue there's none that he has to.
The closest one is when he has Superman on the ropes before
Mhm.
the whole Martha thing. If you're gonna kill somebody, you would kill the superpowered guy you think could destroy the whole earth.
Right.
That's who you would kill. And then he says Martha, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "My mom is Martha too," and no, and then nobody has to die, I guess. But
And
otherwise,
well, I gotta stop right there because you're right. Like he says nobody has to die. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I only saw it the one I didn't really enjoy it, but like I remember something to the effect of nobody has to die or nobody else is going to die tonight. And then the immediate next scene, like the jump cut, is him strafing a bunch of guys from his bat plane with like 50 cal machine guns. It's like what was that was a bunch of guys on this like Batman takes those type of henchmen out all the time. Did he have
right?
to
Did he
kill
have to
like
kill these guys with families, these henchmen with stepkids and estranged kids that they're sending child support? No, I don't know how stepmen get along. They probably aren't taking care of their children, but Batman has a gun and bullets. He's already made the decision to
Yeah,
kill. That's
yeah, you don't
different than
show up.
putting him in a situation where he has to kill and use what's at hand, or there's a gun there that he never used. But if you walking around strapped, you you're ready to kill. You are capable. You have the tool, and then you can argue, well, anything could be deadly. Sure. What else are you
True.
using a gun for if you're a vigilante superhero? You're not hunting deer. Your whole thing
I
is
mean, even
protecting
if you're
people. So
I was just gonna say, even if you're hunting deer, I mean, you're killing. Like that's what guns do. They injure, they maim, they kill. They don't. You
facts.
don't. You don't. Nail a board to the wall with a gun. Like that doesn't. That's not what it
Yeah.
does.
You're not firing off warning shots. Hey guys, Batman's here. Cool it.
Right.
Pop, pop, pop. Cool it, guys. So it's
Right.
not even that like Zack Snyder is wrong in what he's saying in a sense. It's just that that is the wrong approach to Batman. And okay, so he's like, I was very inspired by Mark by these other comics. I don't want to say the wrong names.
Frank
And of
Miller.
course, Frank Miller. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Frank
for sure.
Miller, and he talks about the Watchmen and stuff. But okay, so we have to address the fact that like, just in terms of collateral damage, Batman has killed in every Batman movie.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Like,
That's that's what movie heroes do.
yeah.
Movie heroes kill
And
bad guys.
and some of that I personally am like, okay, damn, man. I know Batman doesn't kill, but I know he just killed 30 people when that bus flipped over. Or even in the first Batman when he fights the guy, the fight against the black guy at the end, the martial arts fight.
Oh yeah.
That guy like falls off the building. He's dead, if I remember correctly.
Oh, for sure. Earlier in the movie, he like blows up that chemical factory with like 30 dudes in it. And
Yeah.
it, you know what I mean? But it doesn't also feel like he's like, there's something that's just so aggro about Zack Snyder's version of everything, but also Batman that is like this guy's reveling in this stuff in a way that maybe previous Batman didn't.
That's a big part of it. Um, that's a big part of it because yeah, Dark Knight, a lot of collateral damage. Batman Begins, he literally lets Ra's al Ghul fall to his death
Right.
off the train at the end. So again, to make it a point the way he did and to have Batman with automatic weapon and attached to his and bullets attached to his helicopter or whatever, that was him saying Batman purposely goes out to seek to kill to stop violence. Where other movies are kind of like people die as collateral damage because fighting bad guys causes this kind of damage. This is kind of
Right.
like
Dangerous business.
the unintended consequences. Even, the Marvel movies try to deal with this too, is like, yeah, you saved the world, but you destroyed Sokovia or whatever, or look what you did to New York
Right.
City. That being a superhero creates collateral damage. So people do die in that, which is different than Batman like fighting a Joker and then snapping his neck or something. Which is that's what he
It's
can't do.
right. And it's interesting, right? Like, I think Zack Snyder actually did this better in Man of Steel because Superman kills the villain at the end of that too. But there is an argument there that like that guy was as powerful as Superman. He was getting more powerful by the moment, and like Superman or anything that powerful could just kill everything, right?
Right.
And like there was almost like there was a moral argument there that made sense, but the moral argument of Justice League and or Batman versus Superman is really just that, it takes a hard man to stop bad people. That's the moral argument. It's not about making a tragic choice. You know what I mean? Like Clark
Right. It's a
like
good,
screams and cries after he kills that dude.
yeah.
That's a moment of transformation. There's a lot of moments of transformation, like the Martha scene, that aren't taken up later.
Yeah. Because in Batman and Man of Steel, I wonder if you can concoct an ending. He's holding him, and the bad guy is shooting the lasers at the people. He's trying to keep his head away. So what if he flies straight up? And it's like
Yeah.
the Captain America ending, right? And he's like, "I will fight you forever to keep you from
Mm-hmm.
killing more people." And then that leads to a different ending, or Zod being like, they just keep fighting. After a while, he was like,
You got
"I
it,
don't
bro.
know, yeah, you got it." Or he flies him up into space and like, "I will fight you out here until the end of time. We will fight until we cannot fight any longer because I'm not going to let you kill more people." You know, and then they get hit by an asteroid or something. I don't know. I'm not writing the movie right now, but that's what like Captain America makes me think. Because
Yeah.
he just gets,
It also sounds like
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it also sounds like something from that would happen in like an Invincible, and like that's a great uh, example of like something that took the franchise, changed it around a little bit, and hit all the franchise tropes in a perfect way that it feels like, even though it's more violent than Superman or Justice League or like the DC or Marvel comics, it does feel like it's honoring them, and
Hmm.
that's just kind of interesting to think
Yeah.
about as we talk about franchises, and that now is a franchise unto itself.
And what you said before was like reveling in the killing. It's like the good guy with a gun
Yeah,
um, idea. And I think that's what, I mean, I don't know if that's what Snyder believes, but that's what his movies are saying, that like the best hero is the good guy with a gun who's willing to kill the bad guy, who will kill the bad guys because we have to rid the earth of badness, as if badness is just in somebody's DNA, and once you get rid of it, enough of it, there will only be goodness left. I think that's kind of the simplistic kind of thinking, which
yeah, for
also
sure.
ties to like racism. I think that a lot of times in the past, the idea was like we'll get far enough in the future to stamp out racism, but racism is not like that. These things, bad people, racism, sexism, hatred is, it's like it's these are human things, and they don't
Hmm.
grow because they don't just grow, they can grow out of nowhere,
Right.
you know? So the whole thing with Batman is the bad guys exist because Batman exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a sense. But so in that sense, Batman would have to kill himself to stop the bad guys. You know, that would be the only answer.
For sure.
To stop that level of bad guy, you have to do yourself because they exist because you exist. And then the police can handle burglars stuff, you know?
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, right? Like I think if we're talking franchises, we're allowed to talk across multimedia, right? So like, I'm an old school Batman comics fan, and it's like there's so much of that like world that you just can't translate to the movies, right? That this is a
For
world
sure.
in which these things that there's like a continuity of like this stuff, that there were heroes and villains before Bruce Wayne was born, right? Like that's the DC world. Um and like when you're translating that into I think a movie franchise, there are going to be some considerations made. And I think in a certain acceptance of like Batman maybe unintentionally killing some people is going to be accepted because there's just a different movie language, right? But at the same time, you know, I think it's important for artists and fans of things to like acknowledge that like there are things that make like there are things that make certain characters, right? Like
Right.
games are defined by the rules. If
Right.
if football had the rules of basketball, then it would be basketball. It wouldn't be football,
It will be football.
right? And so I think, like for example, like the Punisher is a vigilante character that all of that stuff makes perfect sense for.
Right.
I don't reject it because I have some like moral outrage at it. You know what I mean? Like, but that's
Yeah.
that character.
That's
So
that
if
character.
I'm here for Punisher, I'm gonna watch Punisher. But if I'm here for Batman or Bond or any other franchise, right? Indiana Jones, then I want that character.
And two things kind of one, almost every other Batman movie did a better job of putting him in situations where he should have to kill and he gets
Mm-hmm.
out of it. Like Batman Forever, it's like his friends are in one tank and the bad guys, you know what I mean? His friends are in two different tanks and he has to save both of them. You know what I mean? And he doesn't kill the bad guys that set him up. I guess he's not set up to kill somebody, but it's definitely like a tougher situation than
Ooh,
this. And
nah, Batman Forever, he does kill him. He tosses the coins out. He tosses the coins out for Two Face.
for Two Face, yeah, yeah.
He callously kills him.
He like I said, he does. That's the other thing. It's like he does kill people. So even like it's just the callousness and the attitude behind it,
Yeah, for sure.
and and how it was built to in Snyder's made it feel like, and the whole thing with like Batman not killing or a hero not killing is like it doesn't make the god irrelevant. To call him a god, I think is also. I mean, I get what he's coming from with that, but it's like people want heroes like that. That's why Batman's
Yeah.
been one of the top three. Or the top three heroes, Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man, don't kill. They've been top three for 70 since they've been around.
70, 90, and like nearly 100 years at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
throwing just a couple of years on all of those, but still.
It's why we don't like try to rewrite religions every couple generations. You know what I mean? It's like, no, Jesus is Jesus. The same Jesus from 100 years ago. People read the Bible because it's these stories and it's something about goodness or being aspirational. You don't make a sports movie
Mm-hmm.
where the guy doesn't compete in the final game. He's like, just didn't have it. I gave up training, So to think that you could overcome evil and overcome badness without becoming evil, that's what's at the core of it.
Absolutely. I think there was, do you have more?
Nope.
Okay. um, I think something that we're messaging about a little bit earlier, but it's like, you know, people often like kind of cynically state like, Batman's superpower is just that he's a rich guy. Uh, or, other people will say like it's his focus, his will, his determination. Like I feel like it's really his self-awareness. And like Batman is aware that the world has broken him in a way,
Hmm.
and he like steadfastly refuses to fully break in that way and do what he can to make sure that other people don't have to go through a similar breaking. And like that's the heroism. That's the superpower. That's what we show up for time and again. Like a guy with a gun, I could watch Die Hard, right? I could watch any of these. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like that's what makes it the thing that has lasted for I think 85 years at this point.
yeah. Batman is a franchise with these rules, and if you want to see murders, which I mean, I get wanting to see action, but you
Hmm.
know, John Wick, he's murking everybody. He's got a gun. Great franchise. Great franchise. You
Phenomenal
can watch that.
franchise.
You could watch that. James Bond, who we talk about in another app, work you out in a sec. He has a license to kill. He has a
For
license
sure.
for it.
Mission Impossible. Ethan is killing people left and
But superheroes who have all this power, Batman, who can get one up on anybody with prep time,
right. Yeah, yeah, for sure. He's got a plan.
they're not supposed to kill because with great power, stealing from another franchise comes great responsibility,
Right.
you know? And that's what the message that we want to pass to each generation, and maybe it's a little lost right now. Maybe this is why Zack Snyder made these movies now when we're in a time where, the extremely wealthy get praised when we know that they're preying on the small business owner, they're preying on the average worker. This is the
Right.
age we're in, so maybe, we need a readjustment to like, this reboot of Superman could be really timely. This new Batman, which I really
Uh,
like, um, could be really timely in Marvel's next phase where we're like get back to heroes and making sure that like they're not purposely, they're not just murderers. That's not their
right.
ethos because humanity's lessons don't really change. We may be in an era of meta-ness or subversiveness, but the truth is people want superheroes that don't kill.
Right.
That's like the overarching superhero franchise is that. And then you have your subversive heroes like Punisher that do. And those comics are a little darker, asking like a little bit different questions. That's part of it. And that's part of it. But up top is your idealistic, is your Superman. I do not kill, Batman, 70 years of a franchise. That's just what he does. If you want to subvert that, you make Punisher, you make Irredeemable, you make Catman, or you know what I mean, or a
Absolutely. I
specific
just saw
the
the
East African Batman, maybe not East African, but you know what I mean, who does kill, who's my own graphic novel who I made in response to Batman.
right. Yeah, no, I just saw the trailer for the new Crow movie, right? And that's a
Hmm.
revenge tale. And it seems like a lot of times what people want when they want this sort of Batman movie is they want a revenge movie, right? And like, but that was also a comic book. Like, if you want to subvert that hero trope, then you make the Crow. You make these other things that you were talking about. You create
Yeah,
your own thing. But as far as the big ones, it's like even Punisher, which is published by right Marvel, one of the big two, like that has a smaller fan base.
right,
The writers and creators didn't determine the size of that fan base. You know what I
right.
mean? It's the people who connected to it. So it's okay to admit that the probably second most recognizable character on the planet um is probably has like some rules
And
around
have some rules. Yeah,
the
got some
audience.
rules.
You know what I mean?
And that being said, I'm not going to look up the numbers. People can look it up, but it's not like he lost money making those movies. He
Oh
still
yeah,
made a ton of
those
money
are they were hit.
and then got like 500 million to make his own franchise on Netflix. So even then, it's
For
like
sure, boys winning.
it's like you don't need to like clear the record up. You know, no matter what you do, fans are gonna be pretty divisive. You know, there's like if there's 10 ways to make the movie, 9 of them are going to be super divisive. There's like one way where you have a majority of people liking it, you know? So,
Yeah,
but the reason why maybe this is one of the more divisive takes that could have been done. That's why he feels he needs to clear the air and justify himself. I don't know exactly, but it still worked out for him in the long run. But the reason is because it's like the rules of the franchise. This is franchise talk. The rules of the franchise have to be honored.
absolutely. And I think that's the risk and the gamble you take when you allow, and I'll give him this credit, right? When you allow an auteur director, and he absolutely is, you recognize the Zack Snyder movie. It has a clear, definable style. You know what I mean? And my secret wish has always been like go make a heist movie, man. He'd make a phenomenal heist movie. You know what I mean? But not a zombie heist movie. I mean like a Heat. You know what I mean? Like a
Yeah, yeah.
crime heist movie. He'd kill it. I mean, movies are beautiful. The action's great. But anyways, but when you hire an auteur into a franchise film, it could work out like a Christopher Nolan who delivered something that was really interesting, a Matt Reeves, or you can get a pretty divisive one, right? But to your point, Zack Snyder has his fan base. Zack Snyder
Exactly.
has his people who don't like, there are no surprises there.
Exactly. There were
So
no
it is,
surprises. He didn't make DC movies that were like out of left field for him. He'd made
no,
enough
there's
movies
Zack Snyder
before
movies.
where he's made enough movies before where it was like, I get an idea of what he's gonna do here, you know?
Right.
And they had meetings with him, so they let him do this. And it became divisive, and maybe it's not, it became divisive enough where years later he had to go on a podcast and feel like he had to defend himself. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like that.
I think there's something that you said about our society, which is like what it made me think when you were talking about it. It's like it really is like the bully timeline. Like we're in the bully timeline. This is where
Mm,
the bullies are winning. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And and it's sad because like yeah, the people who are winning are going and talking about how aggrieved they feel. You know what I mean? And this is not, I'm not trying to take anybody down, you know what I mean? But to go on a podcast and like again, you're winning. You have a whole new franchise that is yours. You've done it, and no one can ever take away from you that you made two well liked and enjoyed Batman or like DC movies. They're also not well liked and enjoyed, but it's a pretty even split. You've got millions of people who enjoy this, and it made you a
yeah.
lot of money.
And made a huge Justice League movie, stepped back from it, still got to release his cut, a 4-hour cut of a movie, and he's you know justified himself on the most popular podcast on the planet, the Joe Rogan. like you
It's a
know
weird choice. It's a weird choice.
well I just mean the fact that it's the most popular one. Like again, more
Mm,
wins, but you're telling me that you feel a loss. But all I'm seeing is
yeah, wins.
all you know what I mean.
Straight
All I'm
wins.
saying is championship trophies in your mantle. And a few people get worked up on Twitter, like let it ride.
For sure. Like to imagine he got to do the thing that we're talking about, which is to say that he's making his oh man, Rebel Moon franchise. Like he's making that franchise.
It's making that.
He's taken Star Wars, one of the most successful franchises. And so
And got
like
a
that
Star
is an
Wars budget to
incredible
start
win
something from scratch. Got a Sstar Wars
to
budget to do
start,
his own from scratch.
do his
He
own
didn't have to do
IP.
the
Like
low
that's an
budget. He
incredible
didn't have to
win.
do a graphic novel. They just said Netflix said bam, 200 mil per movie. That's
I,
insane. Amazing.
I honestly
Congratulations.
hope for like I'll move off the topic, but I do honestly hope for him that he's able to see that win. It's an incredible win.
It's incredible. I mean, look, to wrap it up, I co-wrote Creed. I'm still trying to get my first feature. You know what I mean? Of
Yeah,
course, Ryan is killing it. You know, love
absolutely.
the work that he's been doing. But you did franchises and got more and more and more. You know what I mean? Of course,
Right.
it's a different position. Our positions aren't really comparable, but I'm just saying, you know,
Franchises.
this has been
I have
franchise talk.
nothing more.
That's it. Franchise talk out.